Every day in America, companies experience electrical injuries and fatalities. You know, I realized after the incident that I could have died in front of my son that day. I also know that there's many people here listening to my story thinking naively that this couldn't happen to them. And I want to challenge that and say, if you think it couldn't happen to you, I believe you're exactly the kind of person that it could happen to. Because you won't do the things you need to do to prepare for it not to happen. I'm an electrical and instrumentation technician for Georgia Pacific Corporation. I've been in that role for about 12 years, and I've been blessed to work here for approximately 30 years. We're located in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and we make tissue products here. This day started like a normal day. I meet with the rest of the crew in the electrical and instrumentation shop on the first floor. That's where we get our work for the day assigned to us, and we go through some safety tips for that day or safety concerns. Something unusual did happen that day. I received a notification that one of the machines I'm responsible for, number 21 rewinder, was down and people were working on it. So after we received our PM work orders, I sent my son, who I was getting to work with for one of the first times, I sent him up to the south wall tissue area to number 2 rewinder just to begin filling out his job hazard analysis, safe work permit, and I told him I'd meet him up there in a little while. I found out that this machine had been down since last night, so we're talking like 7-8 hours down. And this is kind of one of my pet peeves, that the communication on that got dropped. But anyway, we made our way down there, and I thought it'd be a good opportunity just to kind of teach about troubleshooting with Evan and Lou, which were the 2 guys that were with me. So I got there, we went and set up the laptop on the machine. We're having some difficulty connecting to that machine, and that's kind of another issue that we've been having lately. Communication issues between our laptop and essentially the brain of the machine. But eventually we got that talking and discovered that there was a corrupt program in the machine. So we downloaded a backup, and that machine began to operate normally except for one of the in-feed conveyors. Number 4 motor was not working, and so I looked through the program, looked through the tags which would identify what turns that on, and I could not find that motor. Started getting frustrated with myself, and I think it was somewhere around that time where it was lunchtime, and so Evan left for lunch, and I decided to look in the cabinet to see if I could find the drive or the starter that controlled motor number 4. Looked in there briefly, could not find that. Then I went to look for the prints for the machine, and they were gone. And so that kind of sent me over the edge. Between the communication issues, our skill building opportunities, prints being gone, chronic kind of technology issues, I had a bunch of negative, critical thoughts, judgmental thoughts going on, and I thought, I'm just going to go find this motor physically and yank on the wires and find out where it's coming back to in the cabinet. This is the panel that controls 21 case packer, which the majority of which is down here. This is the place we were troubleshooting when I almost died that day. So I found the motor. I went to the nearest junction box, pulled on some wires. I told another guy I was working with to open up a conduit body so he could see where those wires were pulling, and I said, pull on those wires, and you know, he couldn't see what I was doing, but I walked around back to that main panel, and I saw where I thought the wires were kind of moving around up there, and I went to reach up, and boom, I got a 480 volt shock, and yeah, it was just, my first thoughts were like, how did that happen?
How did I do that? That is so dumb. Who? Yeah, I got shot.
And I realized then I never had locked out the panel. And so I took a look at my hand, and I couldn't see anything wrong with my hand. And I'm just kind of confused, and I backed up, and by that time, the guy I was working with came around the panel door, and he said, "Hey, what's going on?" And he looked at me, and he said, "Are you okay?" I said, "No, I got shocked." "You got shocked? Where?" he asked. And I showed him my hand, and he didn't see anything. And I said, but my heart is like really racing, really racing. He said, tell you what, let's just go back to the shop and call our boss. And so that's what I did. And it was kind of the first in a long series of hard discussions. We need to work daily at becoming unconsciously competent in our safety skills. So it's as natural as putting on your shoes in the morning. I believe that I'm blessed to be alive. I've got more time to be a husband, more time to be a father. I realized after the incident that I could have died in front of my son that day. And I was thinking about how tragic that would be for him. So if somebody hears my story and just takes a moment to slow down and think about what they're doing, think, is there a safer way to do this? If my story would save one person, it'd just be tremendously, tremendously successful.